Hello everybody, my name is Brianna Bilo and I'm a meteorologist here with the National Weather Service office in Grand Junction, Colorado, and this is your October 2024 monthly climate summary. So starting off for our story of the month, we have record October heat. The first half of the month, literally the first 15 days of the month of October, were extremely unusually hot. We set in those 15 days in Grand Junction alone, we set 10 records. We either tied or broke the previous records. In the 5 days where we didn't either tie or break a record, we were 1 degree shy of that record. And as you can see here, numerous other areas also either broke or tied records across the region. And this was due to a prolonged period of stuck under an anomalously strong area of high pressure that just kind of let these temperatures climb and climb and climb. And we didn't see any relief until about actually the second half of the month. Starting on the 16th of October, we finally started to see this progressive pattern of fall storms bringing cooler weather, wetter weather. We saw our first snowfall in the mountains, proper snowfall of the season. And I do actually have a snowpack update for you this month because the second half of October was pretty wet and did a pretty good job of kicking off our 2024-2025 snowpack. So moving through, we have our highest temperatures. As you can see, all of these are at the very beginning of the month. So even though we stayed anomalously warm through the first half of the month, because we're in late fall now moving towards winter, we're past the equinox, we are rapidly losing light, and with the low sun angle and the shorter days, it just physically cannot get as warm the further into the month of October you get. So while we continued to set records, we really only saw these unusual high near 90-degree temperatures those first couple of days of the month. So our highest high for the month was at 90 degrees in Canyonlands on the 4th, closely followed by the 89 in Junction on the 1st and the 2nd. And our coolest high of the month was 78 in Aspen, also on the 4th. Moving on to our lowest temperatures for the month of October, quite a departure from our highest highs, and you can see all of these, with the exception of Meeker, which also had one on the 25th, occurred on Halloween. And that is because we had one of our coldest and strongest storms of the season come through right before Halloween, with clearing skies behind it, enhancing the cold and leading to these really chilly temperatures, especially compared to what we had seen in the first half of the month. Although, to be fair, these are not actually that far off from normal. But, you know, when you've been running 20 degrees above normal for several weeks in a row, it's still quite a shock to the system. So our warmest lows were in, again, Canyonlands and Grand Junction, makes sense, with 36 in Junction and 32 in Canyonlands, with our coldest lows occurring in Durango and Aspen with a 20 and an 18 respectively. Definitely a chilly morning. Chilling. Halloween was definitely chilling. That's a bad joke, I know, but you know. And then looking at precipitation, as I said, the month started off very dry. But as we moved into that second half of the month, we started to see much wetter conditions. And you can kind of tell that certain areas were more favored than others, particularly the far south, represented by Cortez and Durango, and then areas further north as represented by Vernal, Craig, and Meeker. Rifle is a little bit of an anomaly there because it should have kind of fallen in with these central areas, Junction, Aspen, Montrose, Canyonlands, which did not see above normal precipitation. In some cases ended up being quite a bit below normal. But I digress. If you want some more information on this, you can go and check out the write-up that is linked in the description. We do this video, and then we also do a write-up to accompany it, so you can check that out. It's got a little bit of a different presentation on the information, so up to you. Anyway, so our big winner for the month was Cortez with over 3 inches of precipitation, pretty much all of that falling in the second half of the month, so the last 16 days of the month. And that was over 2 inches above normal. and Meeker joining in with being over an inch above normal, and then the rest of us were with the rest of the above normal areas were generally between a quarter and half an inch. And then looking at our below normal contingent here, Canyonlands came in at the bottom, unfortunately, with just over half an inch of precipitation for the month, and this was about 0.3 of an inch below normal. Grand Junction almost broke even, and poor Aspen, even though they're not at the bottom of the list, they had the highest departure from normal with just about 0.3 of an inch below normal. Moving into our drought update, this has been an interesting month. Because as I said, the month itself started off very warm and very dry, and that was a continuation of the second half of September, which was also very warm and very dry. So briefly, in the middle of the month, we did actually see some degradation through a wider portion of the area. We saw more of this D1 moderate drought extending across the north. We had more pockets of this yellow abnormally dry condition across the south here, but with the precipitation that moved in for the second half of the month, especially, it favored the southern and the central mountains in Colorado, and also it favored the eastern Uintas as well, but clearly not enough for the sake of the drought monitor, and we'll see how that changes going forward through the month of November, because as of the time of recording this, we've actually had a relatively wet and unsettled month of November as well, so definitely stay tuned to the drought updates. But for the most part, we're not doing terrible. I mean, yes, we do have this wide area of D1 moderate drought along our northern border across northwest Colorado and northeast Utah, and we do still have a pretty big swath of D0 abnormally dry conditions, but we've also got about half of the area without drought. And considering that prolonged hot and dry period that we said, I was genuinely afraid we'd be doing a lot worse than we are. So take our wins where we can get them. Moving into our drought outlook, so this is drought tendency. And again, this was from the very beginning of November, before we were sure that this unsettled and cooler pattern was going to continue. The drought outlook does favor the majority of eastern Utah and western Colorado to see drought redevelopment, with areas that are already in drought conditions, so mainly along our northern border there, seeing that drought persisting. The southern mountains and the higher terrain right along our border in northeast Utah and northwest Colorado is expected to continue seeing the conditions they already have. So we're looking at no drought for the southern mountains and some abnormally dry conditions for the this portion of northeast Utah and northwest Colorado. But again, at the time of recording this came out on November 1st. It is November 11th, and we have already started to see some changes here. As you'll see in the Climate Prediction Center's outlook, they're actually favoring equal chances of above or below normal precipitation and above or below normal temperatures. And in the short-term Climate Prediction Center outlooks, we are actually being favored for slightly below normal temperatures and slightly above normal precipitation. So we're going to have to wait and see what falls out when we get to the December update and the seasonal update as well, because we will be finishing the fall season with the end of November. So, first snowpack update of water year 2025. Not doing that bad, actually, although this is early season, so kind of take some of these numbers with a grain of salt. Like, I don't necessarily think that the San Miguel, Dolores, Animas, and San Juan basin is 464% above normal, but it is probably still definitely above normal. The problem you get in the early season and again in the late season is that there's just not a lot of snowpack typically, and so if your average snowpack is 1 inch and you get 4 inches, surprise, you're 400% of normal. So that is kind of why some of these numbers are a little wonky, but it's not terrible. It's certainly not the worst that I've seen. I've seen some basins in early season outlooks have like 1,000% of normal because they got an entire inch of precipitation. So that being said, southern mountains is definitely favored at the moment. These are quite a bit above normal for this time of the year, so this was taken as of the end of October 31st for the whole month of October. With our northern basins is doing a tiny bit worse, but we're still above normal. at 110% of normal in the Colorado headwaters and 124% in the Yampa and Little Snake Basin. And that tracks with the storms that we saw in October. We definitely saw southerly to like southwesterly flow that definitely favored the San Juans far more than it favored the central or the northern mountains. And then likewise, looking at October, pretty much nothing in southeastern Utah as of when I took this image. I admit we do have some snow in the San Juans and the La Salles now, but definitely saw the Duchesne Basin and the northeastern Uinta basins again being favored by that southerly flow with the storms that we saw in October. So it makes sense that they're doing pretty well. And again, like I said, with early season snow, 1,700% of normal in San Rafael swell. Not exactly representative, but that's what happens when you have very low snowpack averages to compare to. I'm sure that'll settle out into a more reasonable number with the November update. And then moving on, as I mentioned, the Climate Prediction Center outlooks for the month of November, we are looking at equal chances across the board. Equal chances of above or below normal precipitation, equal chances of above or below normal temperatures. And so far for the month of November, that's rather how it's played out. The first week of November was below normal temperatures, above normal precipitation, while this week has been a little bit more on the near to slightly above normal temperature side and a little less heavy on the precipitation, although that is expected to change as we go towards the end of this week and continue through the month. So definitely stay tuned, but that's a good sign after the last couple definitely heavily favoring below normal precipitation and above normal temperatures. We'll take it. And that's that for the month of October update. I hope you enjoyed. Come back next month. We'll give you the November update and the seasonal fall update as well. So that will be the summary for September, October, and November. And an outlook on what the winter season might have in store for us. I hope you enjoyed and have a good one.